Hello my brethren, I hope you're all well. I want to talk about male nature and the ideas that keep men captive throughout their lives. I want to talk about blue pill and red pill men as if they're the same, obeying the same rules, and are subjects to their biology and their desires. And I want for all men to understand their biology, appreciate their desires, and help them make their own decisions. I realized that my channel has been quite instructional, it has been advisory. It took aspects of male nature, and particularly my nature, and put it on a screen for everyone to see and hear. Then I formulated the ideas, my ideas, in videos and created those videos to help men with moving forward, escaping and owning their destiny. And although as a person and an individual I have found my own ways to deal with my reality, I know very well that my solutions, my exploration is not that of every man's. My experiences are uniquely my own, and so are my desires. We like to speak using universals and generalizations here in MGTOW. Few ever speak about the specifics and about the desires that they're facing, and although the message is something that appeals to all men, it spares the individual searching himself to find the answers. And I initially thought that this was a problem, this was somewhat faulty, and I brought the personal aspect in a lot of my stories in order to be relatable and be quite real. But maybe speaking generally, the majority of the time is not such a bad thing. Maybe it is not an awful thing, maybe the answers lie deeper within the individual listening to the video, and maybe it's time for that individual, for that man, to take control and own his own destiny and understand his own desires. Men still have inside of them, even in MGTOW, a facade that they're parading with. They have an attitude that blurs the realities of their thoughts. The shedding of the ego that Barbarossa spoke about a long time ago is not something that is implemented, but rather it forms as an idea or a part of that newfound identity. I see men around talking and rejecting that they have emotions, that women mean anything to them, that they're over their programming, their desires and their wants are absolutely meaningless in the face of them now that they're MGTOW. And when I see these men, and I listen to blue pill men, I see differences. Red pill men believe for most part that without doing any of the work, just by listening to content, that somehow puts them above everyone else. Whereas with blue pill men, I see men who almost humbly admit that they're wrong, especially when they run in trouble because they see an almost certainty in what you're saying and they want to tap on the information that you possess. The blue-pilled men openly admit to their own desires and admit that they want those women in their lives. That's what their operating mode is. At all times, they want to please the pussy, serve the pussy, and hopefully touch a pussy. No, I'm not saying this to belittle those men. They're honest, they're honest with their desires, and we can all see it. But what of us in MGTOW? What of us red pill men? How honest can we be with ourselves? How much of the blame do we honestly throw on ourselves for what has happened to us? My type of woman, I like her to be fair, with black hair, a good body, with a nice small waist, with boobs preferably above B, ideally C's or D's, with a beautiful face. But you see, it doesn't just stop there. You see, if that woman was in front of me, yeah, I would consider having sex with her. But a woman with all those things, and an attitude, anger, the desire to prove me wrong, taking me down a roller coaster of emotions with piercings, yeah, I really like the piercings. Yeah, she would make my heart race. You see, other women, I could sit back and watch. With this type of female, I would have to stand up, I would have to approach, I would talk, and I would feel the most intense desire to make her submit to me, listen to me, and for all intents and purposes, obey me. And it has been like this since I was 15. It has been like this forever, and I have not changed one bit. And I don't think this will ever change. And although I have slept with softer, more beautiful and gentler women, it feels that I almost need the fight in my life to keep me active and keep me interested. And I want the tiger to turn into a cat, and I want her to admit that she is like this because I made her like this. But I would want the fight or the urge to make her submit to me to be a constant, to be constantly there. Otherwise I will get tired, I will get bored, and I will get fed up with her. And no matter how beautiful a woman is, I find that if there is no risk that she can stab me in the middle of the night, I can't really enjoy myself with her. Call it a fetish, call it a disturbed sense of identity, call it the result of whatever happened to me as a child. It doesn't matter what it is. This is the thing that I desire, and no matter what I do, I cannot change it. And men, we all have that type of woman. We all have our kryptonite. We all have the type that can infect our thoughts. But even now, when we talk about looks, we all know that there is something else that attracts us. Makes us feel like home with some females, maybe more than others. I mean, looks, sure, they're good enough to get your erection going, but there's other attributes in a woman that promote your emotional connection. They spur you into action, and that attraction cannot be controlled, it cannot be reasoned with, it cannot be rationalized. And for a lot of the men, that attraction, that desire, it leads them down horrible paths with disgusting women, with women who treat them as less than shit. But think for that man, that attraction is also inevitable. It is inevitable as much as mine is. And in MGTOW we talk about desire, and we talk about ways to avoid our desires, yet mastering them takes another step. It takes a step towards a direction of blame. Abuse and decisions, there is a very fine line. And me and Messenger have talked about abuse before, and I have talked about my abuse prior to that. But when it comes to relationships, there is always two voluntary parties involved. And I'm not denying the abuse or the dramatic effect of those stories, but the majority of men know. They know what they're getting into. They understand the risks, and they appreciate the differences between themselves and those women. And by saying this, no, I'm not taking the blame from the women and placing it solely on male shoulders. No, not at all. I have been around long enough to know that in life there is inconceivable circumstances that put people in situations that are unavoidable. Yet, the male spirit of discovery is there, and the male spirit can recognize some blame when blame is due. No, I'm not denying anyone victimhood, but I want us to see past the victimhood into the light and into survival. You see, for men, it took a very long time to understand the concept that they had some kind of humanity. For a lot of the men, they have accepted their programming and their disposability in the eyes of the world and society. And sure, there is biology, and sure, there is inescapable attraction, something that is up to us to reconcile with and recognize. But there is always much more than that. But as with every new concept, as with every new rationalization and understanding, there is new and changing ideas for those men. For men who have never had the time to see themselves as humans, as people worthy of compassion and empathy, understanding this new reality has shown them that they have been victims of abuse, that they have been brainwashed into servitude, that their biology, their natural drive has been utilized to get them into being obedient slaves. And understanding this, understanding the abuse, the torture of our humanity and our manhood to get us working our 9 till 5s, to stand up and protect random women on the street, to utilize our most valuable resource, our DNA, to produce life and still be cast as a useless utility. It is heartbreaking. For a lot of the men, this reality comes to them, be it blue pill or red pill. At some point this reality hits them, and once you accept you also possess humanity, it is inevitable that you will see yourself as a victim. It is inevitable that you will be shrunk into an infinitesimally small person. As a child, a little boy in a corner, helpless, crying for his mother, for a stranger to cast an eye at him and lay down a helping hand. And I see a lot of that around, and it is the inevitable conclusion to someone that suddenly sees himself as human and understands what he was going through. And a lot of the men collapse into the reality of such understanding, and they spend way too much time into the darkness. They spend way too long lurking in the shadows, barely surviving with no aim to come back out, since they're afraid of the consequences. And they're not just men now, they're also human, and humans live and they die, they hurt and they cry. They're not only strength, but they are also weakness. And if men stay that long into the shadows, they may never come back. But through victimhood, the blaming lies solely on the shoulders of that one woman, of society, of the world, of God, of consequence and chance. But it does not lie on the shoulders of that man. After all, those men, they had enough blame put on their shoulders, and they don't want to accept anymore. And it doesn't take for a very intelligent man to say that a lot of the men were willful participants. As an adult, despite your conditioning, despite the brainwashing, you acted and consented. In this prison, in these chains that we have wrapped around our necks, holding us firmly back into the shadows, those chains weren't built solely by the hands of others. We men, we took the hammer, we took the fire, and we took the melted metal and banged for hours, days and years, into getting those chains formed. We built them with reinforced steel, and we made them with precision and calculation. Those are the chains of our own ego, of our own self. Men are the animals that became self-aware and understood that they also had thoughts and emotions. But aren't those very same men the men that built those chains? Aren't these men the creators of their own prison? And if men are, in part, the captivators and captives in their own prisons, can they not let themselves free? And I can hear you guys whispering right now, saying that we cannot escape biology, we cannot escape attraction, we cannot go back and change what happened to us. We cannot expect any different treatment from everyone else in society. And I agree, I completely agree. The clock cannot turn back. Time always moves forward, yet we live in the past. Men, we are reminiscent of the good old days, of the happiness that we lived during those days, or the abuse we had to endure during those days. But those days are not today. Those days are yesterday. And right now, men around the world, around the globe, are realizing their humanity. They're realizing their worth. And it is crashing. It is soul crushing to them. It is putting a weight on their shoulders that they cannot lift, they cannot push, and it is keeping them on their knees and keeps them suffering. And for those men, I mean, they put up with it, they accept it, and I can only imagine the pain a man like that has to endure. Knowing what he knows now, the past, the present, it is soul crushing, it is devastating. And for those men, they seem to think that society put them down. The woman put them down. They nailed the coffin of their suffering. Men, my brothers, look into the mirror and see yourself. See the wasted body that you have, the muscles around your arms, the strength that you feel exploding in your fists. See that you formed those chains. You are the one that built them. You were instructed to, you were forced to, but you built them. And put those hands around the chain around your neck and pull that chain apart. Pull it the fuck apart. Discard it on the floor and look at the power of your own self. Admire at your own nakedness, your vulnerability and power of your emotions and calculating brain. Walk outside that room, into the world that we built, we formed. Look at nature, the wilderness that we bent to our own will. Understand that within you exists a line of fighters, of survivors, of warriors and kings. Those men, they did what was necessary. Those men obeyed no one. Within you exists that pedigree. Within you exists the ability to rule, if not others, the ability to rule your own self and your own decisions. And though our biology is inescapable, the attraction to the female, the existence within the boundaries of physics, all those things are inescapable. But there, within that biology of the man, exists the ability to be a man. The man, the animal, that is not subjugated by petty rules and moaning. Men, my brothers, we have formed our own prisons, and in those prisons we live alone. Only we can look into the mirror and understand this, and only we can accept our own abuse and accept the brainwashing. And we can break away from all of this. We can step naked outside into the fire, into the rain, into the darkness and the wilderness, and we can learn to live by our own morals and by our own rules. Thank you for listening. This was Nikuchowski talking about all things man. Please like, share, and of course subscribe to my channel for more updates.